Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. We're your wellness check-in team. Join us each week or when you can. We enjoy exploring wellness concepts and reminding you to make time for wellness. This is episode 99. We hope our territorial acknowledgement improves allyship with Indigenous people within a reconciliation process. We're on the Haldimand Tract, located on the traditional territories of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. We acknowledge the presence and traditional knowledge, laws, and philosophies of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land. It's another week of Let's Be Well Together podcast. I'm very excited because it's John Webster and I'm here with Noura Saad. Welcome, Noura.
Hi.
Noura was a guest on episode 88 and we had a great conversation and I had some follow-up conversations and then said, Noura, how would you like to join us as a co-host?
And here I am.
Here you are. It's awesome to have different perspectives, people coming at things from different stages and ages.
Yes.
And looking forward to having lots of chats with you.
I do as well. Yes.
So today I want to talk about a social media post that I saw on the Mental Health Commission of Canada's site. And it talks about holiday self-care tips. Mm-hmm. We are now very close to the holiday. And a lot of these I think are pretty interesting. So normally, Noura, what we tend to do is we just read through them first in case we don't get to all of them, and then we talk about a few of them. So, would you mind reading the first four?
Starting off with making space for messy feelings like grief, creating your own holiday traditions, setting realistic expectations for yourself and the holiday, and keeping up with your self-care and make time to relax.
And then the next four are learn to say no without feeling guilty, keep your stress levels in check, step back or delegate. Get organized, make a plan, and try and stick with it. And lastly, give yourself permission to just let it be an average day. Okay, so are any of those something that you resonate with?
For me, the first one, make space for messy feelings like grief. I think because recently I heard a psychotherapist actually talk about how during this time of year, a lot of people's emotions come out. And and grief being one of them. So that one stuck out for me.
I know from my own personal experience, this is the second Christmas without my dad. And I know it's hitting my mom. All of these hit my mom. And imagine that a lot of people feel this at the holiday because you have these traditions you build over time. I'm going to talk about that in a different side to this. And you so connect them with people and then they're not there. So it must be a rough time. And probably you need to kind of almost brace yourself for that.
Absolutely. I think especially because, as you mentioned, John, like a lot of traditions are built around this time. And this is the time where finally everyone gets together because we've come, from a really busy year. And, when we're missing people or say folks don't have people close by they can go to, a lot of those emotions can come out.
What were some of the things that you heard that kind of jumped out at you? She
kept circling back to grief, and she just talked about emotions and just how it's just very saturated for folks right now. But grief was definitely one that stuck out to me, and that's why I chose that specific one.
I did show this to Sheila before I showed it to you, and she said something to me which I think is true. Like in our anecdotal knowledge, a lot of people tend to die just before Christmas or sometimes just after, as if they're like, I want to make it through Christmas with my family. But in addition to the normal issues that you have with missing people at this holiday time of year, I think for lots of people, it's actually almost like an anniversary too, which is really rough.
Actually, you nailed it. She did mention anniversary too. Yes, anniversary came up a lot. That
really?
When anniversaries of passings or whatever happen, the body starts to go into this mode of protection.
The grief is the rough side of holiday traditions in a way. I want to focus on a different side of it, which is create your own holiday traditions. That can be anything. So I'll give you just a kind of a simple example from our life. Yep. There's certain movies that we watch during the holiday season. Of course. So, classic ones include The Holiday. Yep. And Love Actually. Yep. Maybe Elf.
Yes.
And there's lots more. People have had different ones over the ages. Because it's the holiday, because it's time to relax, because it's time, maybe it's one of those times where you can actually take time to chill and relax together. Yes. And because of that, I associate these movies with that wonderful feeling. And so then every year when I watch it, it kind of reinforces and builds up that feeling.
Yes.
Do you have any holiday traditions?
Buying good socks, buying very cozy socks. I don't know if it's because the weather's colder.
That's a good one.
I just love things that are cozy. Just having these slippers on right now is definitely, I'm feeling the traditions. I'm one to adapt to others' traditions. I wouldn't say I have my own, but yeah, fuzzy socks are somewhere in there.
Creating holiday traditions is fantastic. Now, of course, there's lots of others, having meals together, getting together. Was there another one on there that you thought was interesting?
I would say the other one I really liked was keep up with your self-care and make time to relax. And again, as you know, we just discussed, John, like we're coming off such a busy year. It's July and then it's November and you're like, how did we get here, right? So I think just around the holiday time to take time to relax and enjoy a good movie or put on your fuzzy socks or have a good meal together. I think whatever that self-care looks like is to really dive into it and soak it all up.
Well, let me take it a bit of a different direction, because to me, self-care means things like physical health.
Yes.
Exercise, eating nutritious food in moderation.
Yep, so, in moderation around this time.
I have to remind myself at this time of year to do these things, and I'm really glad I do. And, I almost brace myself for that going into the holiday season when you're going to have get-togethers with everyone, dessert and all this stuff.
Yes.
I tell myself in advance,
Brace
either
yourself.
Don't eat that stuff or you can have one.
Yep.
Or whatever it is. And the other side of it is I've found that it's really easy not to run. So I'm a runner. Mm-hmm. It's really easy not to run over the holidays. But when I do, it feels so great. And so now I actually make a point, and it's quiet too, right? There's less people outside. There's less people on the trails. Mm-hmm. And so I really have gotten a lot out of keeping my self-care up in that regard. Lots of times I used to come into January feeling like, oh my gosh, what was that? And I start the year kind of, whoa. So I really like keeping up the physical self-care because I start the year feeling, yes, it's going to be a good year.
Absolutely. With maybe a couple extra cookies, John. Right?
Fair enough.
Okay.
I do make exceptions. I'm not like totally Mr. Grinch when it comes to all the good food, especially if people make it, especially if it's like homemade. I want to try it. Okay. Well, the last one I wanted to talk about was give yourself permission to just let it be an average day. We build up so much what these holiday events are going to be. So they're built up in our mind. And then somebody does say the wrong thing or some other's tension somewhere else, or it's just kind of blasé or whatever it happens to be. And that's okay because most days are like that and we have good days. But for some reason on the holidays, it's like, this isn't the great thing I wanted it to be. And that might be the reason why you get frustrated or don't have a great time. So I like that idea of it's okay. If it's a normal day, guess what? It's relaxing. Lots of good stuff happening. Yep.
With the extra cookies. Going back to that.
Hey, whatever works.
Yep.
There's one thing about my approach is everybody can do their own thing.
Yes.
Guests are giving their time. Expanding our minds. Today's interview is in the category of social wellness, let's say. I'm sure it has to do with more than just that. Have you ever considered that news organizations can impact our wellness? How might it affect our community, our environment, our social lives, even our economic wellness? I haven't thought much about this. I probably should. And today we explore these thoughts with Mirko Petricevic. Welcome, Mirko.
Thanks a lot, John. Happy to be here.
So Mirko is the founder and coordinator of Ink-Stained Wretches, a grassroots advocacy group working to build a culture of appreciation for quality journalism. And Mirko worked at the Waterloo Region Record for 28 years, starting as a photographer, then moving on to work as a reporter and a copy editor before deciding to leave the newsroom because of the precarious nature of the news sector. And that was a decade ago. Since then, he served as Director of Communications and Public Affairs for Martin Luther University College in Waterloo, and most recently as Senior Communications Strategist for one of the local cities. Okay, Mirko, so help me out here. How do newsrooms, reporters, local media, how can they help our democracy? How can they affect our wellness?
Well, you mentioned earlier that news outlets can affect our wellness, and I think we often see it in a way that we think of it as being detrimental to our health.
It's true,
wellness.
the
mental
mainstream
health.
media, you're bad.
But not only that, but doom scrolling.
True.
And,
True.
All you get is the bad news and that kind of thing. But I think taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture and the major function for journalism in society, we can see how it is healthy for society. Quality journalism is essential to a healthy democracy. News outlets across Canada have unfortunately severely weakened from a decade ago. And for the health of our communities, I'm hoping that we can invest in journalism for our community's health. And the ways that I think it's healthy, journalism works as a community watchdog.
Okay.
So it's a watchdog over power. Anybody who holds power, whether they're governments, police, business, it's constantly watch on the public's, vulnerability. It keeps an eye on those powerful entities in our community and on behalf of the public. Journalism is a public service. It's essential for helping us govern ourselves. Journalism also, local newsrooms are community builders. We see local newsrooms celebrate local successes, whether they're in sports or arts or business. Turn to the paper, you look on any news local news outlet, and there'll be good news stories. They don't get as much attention often as the bad news stories, but they're there. And so I think I see them as a community builder. And news outlets can also serve as a way to help insulate us from breakdown in civil society. It balances, the misinformation and disinformation that we may see online. As Marty Barron, a venerable former editor, now retired, of the Washington Post, said he hasn't seen a democracy without a free press, nor a free press without a democracy. So the two go hand in hand.
That's a good one. I like that.
In short, local newsrooms help us be well together.
Thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome.
Playing into the name. Okay, so I'm hearing a few things. I want to come back to them. One is being a watchdog.
Yep.
Another is community building. Another is preventing a breakdown in civil society. And on the watchdog side, it is interesting. I really love the point you just made that you don't see democracy without free press and vice versa. It seems to me that most Western democracies have built into either their constitution or somewhere in their higher up principles, free press being important. That probably is because you need to have that kind of visibility and the leaders, among other people, business people, knowing that there's people watching. There are going to be people holding them to account, reporting things that go wrong.
Yeah, I think it's kind of baked into Western democracies in their DNA in societies that they want to keep an eye on the powerful people in their communities. Again, whether it's government, whether it's businesses that could be potentially polluting, whether it could be scammers who are confidence men, con men, trying to cheat us out of our hard-earned money. I think it's kind of baked into our DNA, the way that our society's evolved, that it is a symbiotic relationship between that free press and needing that free press and a well-functioning society.
It's tricky, though, because that whole attitude of being a watchdog, it kind of makes people nervous, too, right? Like they're being watched.
Yeah.
So, I think a lot of people, they don't really see that connection between the free press kind of guarding their rights, guarding their security, guarding their money, and that kind of thing.
I think maybe a good way to look at it is to being a watchdog on our behalf, on the public's behalf.
Okay.
It's a public service.
That's
Journalism
the
is
important
a public
point.
Service. Yeah.
And can you think of a couple examples? Like if you were just saying to someone, watchdogs can help in that sense on the public's behalf. Can you think of any examples?
Yeah, sure. I got a couple of examples. In my time working at the Record, there's a big story, not one that I was working on, but an example is a Rim Park financing fiasco.
Oh, what happened there?
Back from the year 2000, when the council in Waterloo approved a financing scheme for building Rim Park. And they thought they were going to, over 30 years, pay $113 million for this financing. It ends up that the actual cost turned out to be $228 million.
And when you say they, do you mean the public purse?
The council, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, taxpayers.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's quite a difference.
Right.
Quite a difference. So through a series of stories that the Record did and was able to dig into over close to a year, I would say, they're able to uncover this discrepancy, this unexpected ballooning interest rate costs for the duration of the financing. And so when that huge discrepancy was uncovered, there are lawsuits, there are settlements out of court, et cetera, and Waterloo taxpayers ended up having to pay an extra $33 million instead of about $120.
Wow, that is a big difference.
Yeah, that's a big difference. And what comes with that is added taxes. And right now, when people are struggling financially, they're struggling to make the bills affordability, housing affordability, they're struggling to pay for groceries. That extra burden on that financing has got to add to that family stress. I don't know how you quantify, how you measure, how you quantify the tension in families that are happening between couples. Is that going to lead to family breakdown? And can you imagine how much amped up that would have been if the debt was not an extra $30 million, but it was an extra $120 million? So $33 million, we're still paying it because it's not quite 30 years yet, but that's still a quarter of what we could have been paying if that discrepancy hadn't been found.
You wonder, so what that delta is, how many tens of millions of dollars, you wonder how much news that could have supported.
That's right.
Locally in that time period.
Good point. Not only that, but because of that story, the same other municipalities started looking to their financing deals with the same financer.
Oh, wow.
There was hundreds of millions of dollars in discrepancies throughout the province that record story eventually alerted other municipalities to. Think about hundreds of millions, how much reporting that could have supported as well. So really, again, it was a public service. The trouble is that the newsrooms aren't able to dedicate as much time and effort to uncovering those kinds of discrepancies, uncovering those kind of potential fiascos, because the capacity have just been depleted so much in the last decade and a half.
Okay, well, let me come back to that. I just want a quick point on community building. One thing that I'm more and more convinced of is that we do need to be together to find wellness, and community is a big difference, and social wellness is really important. I look for the stuff about community, right? And I don't even think it's just a matter of celebrating the victories and the arts. I mean, that's all great stuff, but I look at it a lot of times, find out where to go to see people, find out what events are happening.
Sure.
And all that type of stuff. So there's so many ways it does the community building.
Yeah, there's that kind of news you can use.
Right.
That you can take a look at and see where am I going this weekend. But there's also those features that you turn the page, or now you scroll, you come to the website, you scroll down, whatever, and you find a story on maybe your colleague's daughter, parent, whatever, has done some kind of really interesting, cool, successful project. And they're featured in the paper. And all of a sudden, you have something to talk to them about, to your colleague about. Or maybe it's somebody that you've lost touch with, in the last 5-10 years or whatever. But it brings those connections back and brings you back to people, whether they're down the street, across the city, or across generations.
Yeah, the other thing too, I work in a law firm, and in my firm and in lots of businesses around KW, it's really important to keep your eye on the newspaper for each other. Right? It's a really great community for working together and supporting each other, and a really good way to keep up to date on what local businesses are doing, their successes, what they're trying to accomplish, is by keeping your eye on the news.
Sure. Yeah, and not just newspapers. We're talking also radio, TV, whether it's community radio or commercial radio, all news outlets.
Right.
They all have a little bit of something different. I mean, I looked at today's websites, homepages of the websites. Sort of in the Record today, so you'll have a story on a local novelist, first-time novelist. Actually, he was a former colleague, former reporter at the Record.
Nice.
Now he has a novel. Then there's a columnist doing a column on people trying to revive the symphony. And you may think, okay, well, I don't go to the symphony, so I don't care. Well, these symphony musicians are also top-class musicians teaching at the university. They're playing for choirs or other performances around town. That columnist sort of brings to life what a symphony means to a community. And if the symphony can't be reconstructed, or something can't be reconstructed, these people are going to start drifting away, and the community is going to lose. So that was just the Record. Mike Farwell's show today on City News Kitchener talked about a couple of motions at Regional Council regarding affordable housing. In the CPC-KW, they had a story on rising levels of COVID, RSV, and flu viruses in the local wastewater. And CTV also had a number of local stories. You don't see those stories. You won't see them in the Globe and Mail or the Toronto Star.
Right. So a couple things for sure. When I keep saying newspapers, but I mean, and newsrooms, but I of course mean TV, radio, any kind of local media outlet. And we're kind of racing through our time, so we probably won't cover as much as I had envisaged. But let me turn back now to why we're in a worse position today than, say, 10 years ago. What's happening? Is local media struggling? Why do they have less people to do the work? And at a certain point, I worry that there's going to be nobody to do the work and there's no watchdog at all.
Well, it's good to have those worries because that is a real possibility. I mean, the Record today, Metroland News Media, that is the owner of the Record, it's in bankruptcy protection.
Oh, no.
And today it had a creditor meeting, and the creditors decided that they'll accept the proposals. So at least tomorrow there should be a Record on your doorstep if you subscribe, or there should be stories online. But it is much more precarious than it ever has been. And the reason for that is that all news outlets have suffered a huge loss in advertising revenue. Basically, advertising is what used to pay for the news. The subscription fee, what you pay at when you buy it on the newsstand, those didn't really pay for the paper. It was the advertising. And a lot of that advertising has been sucked onto online, and largely by Facebook and Google.
Right.
Partly they're doing a better job of targeting that advertising, whereas the legacy media in the past, they counted on eyeballs. They may be getting tons of eyeballs right now, more than ever, but they're just not getting the revenue.
Right. So the money just goes out the door, goes somewhere else. Now you can't afford to pay staff. You can't afford to pay reporters.
When I was started at the Record in '86, I was one of 6 photographers. And slowly over the years, in the last 10, 12 years, that's gone down to 1.
Oh, my goodness.
1 single photographer. Reporters, I don't have a count, but that newsroom is, I'd be surprised if it's half the size of strength that it was a dozen years ago. So again, they don't have the capacity to cover the local news, to be our eyes and ears the way they used to. And that's the same for other newsrooms as well.
I do want to have you back early in the new year to talk about what's happening with some of the settlement. Recently, there was one with Google. Hopefully, by the time we talk again, maybe there'll be one with Facebook. So something's happening. Mm-hmm. And then I want to talk to you a little bit, too, about what happened in Australia when that money came in and how that helped. Okay. But for today, just before I turn to the question I ask every guest, can you think of any kind of common sense, practical things a person like me can do, a listener can do, a regular person can do to help support the media, which is important?
Sure. Number one is subscribe. We subscribe to Netflix and Spotify and Audible, and we have all sorts of subscriptions for our entertainment. When it comes to essential news, we somehow expect that that's going to come for free. And so the number one thing you do is to subscribe.
Can I ask you a quick question on that?
Yeah.
Let's say I want to subscribe to the Waterloo Region Record.
Yeah.
But I don't want a lot of paper because I'm green.
Yeah.
Can I subscribe for only online?
Online subscription is $60 a year.
Oh, wow. That's nothing.
$5 a month.
Wow.
What can you buy at Starbucks for $5?
Okay. So that's an easy way to help. Right. What are some other things we can do?
Another way is if you run a business, you can advertise. And advertising in the print paper, if we're talking the paper, is much more expensive than online. However, just when I was advertising a film festival that we're running annually, earlier this year we had lots of media coverage for the premiere. Then the next 3 films, we didn't have media coverage. I just promoted it online. I went back to take a look at our analytics for the webpage, and we had a huge bump in viewers, traffic to our webpage from the media interviews for the premiere, and pretty much nothing from the social media promotion that I was trying to do.
When you say media, are we talking radio as well?
Radio, TV, and radio, TV, and the paper.
So buying ads on the radio could be helpful to the local media as well?
Yeah, I think so.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, so advertising makes a lot of sense. Subscriptions, is there anything else we can do?
Yeah, if you go to my website, the Ink-Stained Wretches website, it's ink-stainedwretches.org/ resources.
And just so people know, I'll put that in the show notes.
Right. Okay. So inkstainedwretches.org is our website, and we have a page that's has resources, and we have about 8 or 9 suggestions that you can do for free.
That's fantastic.
That in ways that you can support local media.
Okay.
Just takes a tiny bit of effort. It doesn't cost any money. Money's great. Subscriptions are great. But these are other ways and ways that you can involve your family too.
Well, it always amazes me when people who aren't actually in the industry anymore are doing things to try and help it, which sends a pretty strong message.
Well, I care about our community, the health of our community and the health of our democracy. I see democracies falling apart and societies breaking down. I don't want to see that happen here.
That's true. And even, I mean, to me, it doesn't have to be a total breakdown. Even just the way things are happening in the news, there's certain polarization going on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, now with AI coming in too, maybe all the stories start to look exactly the same. It's not a very pleasant prospect of what's coming up if we don't kind of roll up our sleeves and make this work better.
Yeah, I think we need to be conscious of what's happening.
Yeah.
And be also fair critics, balanced critics of news media. I mean, it's very easy to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, oh, it's all fake news, which is something that's really easy to say, but not easy to support.
No, but even that point in itself, when we can't even agree on what the facts are, there's a major problem going on. And I think by continuing to report the actual facts and people being able to judge for themselves because they can read about it and see, I think that's a big help.
Yes.
Okay, well, let me turn to the question I ask every guest. As you know, we're a show about wellness, and we talk about many categories of wellness.
Yeah.
And we recognize that there's not enough time in the day for all of us to keep all of our categories going at any given time. So we do essentially a mini wellness check-in.
Sure.
So the question is, are you currently neglecting an area of wellness in your life? And if so, can you think of even one thing that you could do to foster wellness in that area?
Yeah, I'd definitely say right now it's physical wellness. I've never been somebody who works out. When I was younger, I'd enjoy, playing games, whether it was softball or frisbee or whatever. But right now, you get into the working world and you get out of the habit. And I always found working out, or sorry to say this, running, jogging, boring. I never got that endorphin high.
Yeah.
I never hit at that point. So I think I need to make more time to actually look into working out. The older I get, the more I'm going to have to be maintaining my body when it comes to muscle mass and whatnot. And so that's definitely going to be a focus. And I'm going to make this resolution before the new year.
Good. Yeah. And I do think too, like as you age, it's almost, I think from a lot of stuff I read, it's the muscle mass that's a big one.
Yeah.
And weights gets important, core gets important. So I hope that you are successful in doing that.
Thank you very much, John. Look forward to chatting again.
I'm Cameron, and welcome to another installment of the Adventures of the Starving Artist. Well, we're about 3 weeks through November here, and I've been at work learning all these holiday tunes, and to be honest with you, I am ready for a breather from that. So much so that last night, when I probably should have been practicing, I just took like an hour and a half and played just to play, just for myself. And I was playing on keys, exploring the different sounds that I could get through the keyboard itself and through my software on my laptop, and just playing around and seeing where the different sounds and effects and textures took me. It's kind of fun. It's also really fun to do on the guitar. You just do it with guitar pedals, or in my case, simulated guitar pedals, again with the laptop. Tech these days is pretty sweet. Anyway, I digress. I was playing last night and just jamming, and I found this sound that, to me, reminds me of like it's like sonar, or maybe a radar sweep sound. Outer space feeling vibes. Yeah, in a second you'll be able to form your own conclusions as to what it reminds you of, but that's what it reminded me of. And so I was playing with this and tweaking some settings, and I stumbled upon a setting, and I don't know where it was. Like, I could probably find it again in there, but I remember seeing SOS while I was jamming around. And that, for whatever reason, popped in the rhythm of SOS in Morse code into my head. Now, I don't really know a lot of Morse code, but again, for whatever reason, I happen to know SOS, which is 3 short, 3 long, 3 short, or dot, 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 dot. I guess it would be dot, 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 dash, 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 dot, dot, dot. But short, 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 long, 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 short, short, short. That's SOS in Morse code. And so that rhythm was in my head. And along with this sort of distant sonar, radar, something space sound, this is what came out. It came out in 7/8, which is a very weird time signature. It means you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a strange one. But for whatever reason, with this particular sound and the texture it makes, and with the rhythm, it comes out feeling pretty natural. This is what came out. I have since polished it up a little bit with timing and whatnot, but this is where I was. Check it out. So yeah, like I said, to me, that sound is searching or scanning distance, out in space, vibes like that. It's kind of fun. Get creative and see what comes out and then just polish it up if you get something half decent like that. Or I think it's half decent. I don't know if I'll do anything with it, but I'll put it in the super folder of all those little audio sketches, I call them, and we'll see. Anyway, that's it from me today. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you get a chance to get creative this week. But for now, I'm Cameron. This is The Starving Artist. Until next time.
We love our listeners and thanks for joining us. Please help spread the word about Let's Be Well Together podcast. Follow us and rate us on Spotify, Apple, Google, or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram at lets.be.well.together and let your friends know about us.
Move that body like we're meant to do.
Hello, everyone. It is Elise Seifert here with Julie Wilson.
Hey, Elise.
Hey, Julie. Today we're going to be talking about the 20 best exercise tips. Sounds like an amazing title. I'm super excited to dive into it. So this is 20 of the best exercise tips. It's posted on News 24. It's written by Elise Wilkie, and it was published on November 1st, 2017. We're going to go through these tips and just kind of comment on our own experiences with some of these tips. We're starting with the first 5. So the very first tip on our list is to track your progress. I know that this is a really great way for me to stay motivated when working out. I particularly love to track my progress when it comes to weight training. So just taking note of the weights that I used and the reps that I did. And it's amazing to see how much growth you have throughout your workout period. And I know I've done the same with running.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Of course.
Do you focus on upper body, lower body? Do you track which days you do one or the other? Okay.
So I typically do programs offered through the virtual classes that I do. I use an online program where they do pre-recorded videos. So you follow along with their program. And what I usually will do is they have upper body maybe twice a week and then lower body once a week. So I'll just track the exercises we did, and week 1 versus week 7, I'll see how I progressed. And it's always quite amazing. And you think about how many days it was so hard to show up, but you did. And then you see how much you've improved.
I like that.
I think super important. One of the best tips on this list for me. The second best exercise tip we have is form over speed. Third is never rush through warm up and cool down sessions. I do find I often want to skip a warm up or a cool down just because you think about how much time you have. But then when I do complete my warm up, I realize how much better my body feels and how it's much more prepared for the workout I'm going to have. Our fourth tip is to sneak in workouts during the day. I know often people can have a hard time finding time to work out. So trying to find ways that maybe you could use in your workday, such as using the stairs or maybe going for a quick walk during a break, is a great way to sneak in those exercises. And the fifth is to incorporate high intensity interval training into your running sessions.
I'm going to talk about the next 5 on the list of best exercise tips. So the 6th one is think beyond crunches. I don't know about you, but crunches are something that I struggle with. I hear of individuals who can, just polish off 100 crunches just like that. Well, that's not me, but they suggested in here planks, and I love planks. So I've been trying to increase my time just little by little. So, I started out with 30 seconds and then 60 seconds. So just increasing, not in short periods of time, like over a week, and just increase the time. So I know for me, that is huge in terms of developing that core strength. The 7th is mix it up. 8, listen to your body. Very important. I don't think some of us, we want to push ourselves, but listening to your body is very important so that you don't get injured. Eat carbs. And number 10, don't forgo foam rolling. And I see lots of folks with these big foam rollers now, and I thought, oh, this is really interesting. Apparently, there are so many benefits from using a foam roller, just easing tension and preventing, muscle soreness. I know my brother and my sister-in-law, they use them all the time. And so I think I'm going to invest in one and see if the benefits are really true.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about that. I'm very interested to see if it works out for you. Continuing with our list, number 11 is invest in physiotherapy. When I saw this on the list, I thought, whoa, that's definitely not something I've tried before. But I do know that people really swear by the work that they do with their physiotherapist. And I know how important it can be, especially when you're dealing with injuries, whether it's an old injury or a new one, and how important it is to make sure that you're doing what you need to do to recover safely. The 12th tip is to be realistic and patient. I know often we want quick results. That's kind of just the world that we live in. But I do know with my experience with working out, the best way is to be patient, and you will definitely see improvements. 13 is to be prepared. I think that's a huge help for me. I know personally, I put my workout clothes out in the morning or in the evening, and I work out in the morning. So the night before, I'll put my workout clothes out ready to go. And just knowing that they're ready to be put on is an easier way for me to motivate myself to get up in the morning. I think if they weren't out already, I'd be like, I have to do an extra step. I'm just going to stay in bed.
I leave my running shoes sitting right there in front of the door. So when I wake up in the morning and come down the stairs, I see my running shoes, and it's like they're speaking to me saying, come on, let's go.
So important. 14 is that you can't outrun a bad diet. So just the importance of what you put into your body and how important it is to have vital nutrients. And 15 is to find your motivation, which is so important. I think there are so many amazing reasons to exercise. So finding one that really works for you long term, I think is so important.
The 16th best exercise tip on our list is get cleaning. And I look at cleaning and I try and put it off, but then I turn it around and I say to myself, Julie, it's exercise. So let's get going, vacuuming, just cleaning, you're stretching, you're moving, gardening, any of those. There's so many benefits to cleaning. Not only do you get a clean house, but just that exercise component. So I just always remind myself that, okay, I can get exercise in here by cleaning. Combining workout with fun. Meet up with a girlfriend. So I have once a week, a girlfriend and we plan our walk, and it's the same time once a week. And we just get out, we talk, but we're exercising. Lots of fun. 18, start walking. Exercise can be just something as simple as walking. Short and sweet. And Elise, we were talking about this before we jumped on our call about Tabata training. And for those who don't know, so Tabata workout is 20 seconds on, 10-second rest, 20 seconds on, 10. And you can pick something like a wall sit, for example. 20 seconds really isn't a long time, but you do a wall sit for 20 seconds. Then you rest for 10. Do another wall sit. So you have these short, little, intense workout in 20 seconds, and then you get a 10-second rest. It really is. It makes the time go by so fast. In fact, you don't even know you're exercising because 20 seconds really isn't a long time. So I love the 4-minute sort of Tabata training methodology. The last is balance is everything. And 100%, you need time to recover. So Olympic athletes, there are those periods of time where they're in intense training all the time, but they allow themselves those times to recover as well. So balance, I can't stress enough how important that is.
What an incredible list. I truly think these are 20 of the best exercise tips that you can find.
I agree.
There's a thought. Popped up while running. Talk is cheap, that's for sure. It's one of my favorite expressions. Actions speak louder than words. And those people that say, hey, this is a really good idea, you should try it, and they don't do it themselves, guilty as charged. You heard me talking a few months back how things were great. I was running regularly, I was eating well, I was doing weight training, I was doing core exercises. I had the physical wellness side going on. Well, I don't know what happened exactly, but one dropped, then the other. I think I remember last year the same thing happened in early winter, where around here it starts to get dark. It's dark. It's dark when you wake up. It's dark early after work. It starts to get cold. Running outside isn't as much fun if you want to do high intensity. Sometimes it's slippery. So the easy thing to do is be like, I don't feel like going out. Then you start this little spiral. You're not exercising as much, so you don't feel as good. Then you don't maybe eat as well and put on a few pounds, and now running feels worse, and then less reason to go out. You can see where I ended up. So I'm not doing what I need to be doing. I was starting to be a bit despondent about that, but I was out for my run today. Luckily, I still do that streak where I try and do at least one 10K run a week, and that keeps me in. It keeps me interested, and it keeps me seeing that if I let things slip, I really pay for it. When I'm out there on that 10K run, I just don't feel as good. So what do you do? So I was out for my run today, and I basically did my wellness check-in on the physical side. And some of the things that are going wrong, it's the time of year where I have to transition to the gym to get back on the treadmill. And as crazy as it sounds every year when this happens, because I don't often go in during the summer, I don't need to. I can get my weights done at home and my running done outside. And every year I'm like, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to look frumpy and people are going to be like, what happened to you? Of course, nobody thinks like that, but that's how my brain works. Or how am I going to fit it into my schedule? I'm now trying to walk to work. How can I do that and go to the gym? Now I have a gym bag. Excuses. You can see them all. I feel like over the last few years, every time I take a few steps forward and lose some weight, then I take more steps backwards and end up a little heavier. So what do you do? So the good news is I thought more about it. And by coincidence, the podcast I love, Marathon Talk, for a long time, they focused on process. Just worry about the process. And that's also something that works in terms of my approach, because in my approach to wellness, I used to think that you could get to a spot where you hit balance and just hang out there. You had the formula, you were doing great, and you just be there and hang out there. But I know from experience that's not how it works. If I happen to find balance in a moment or even in a week, I know that I won't be able to keep all the different areas up at a particular time, and some will slip, and then I'll start to lose balance, and I've got to figure out how to regain it. And that's more like the process. Always kind of getting balance, maybe losing it, not quite, but regaining it and trying to stay as balanced as possible over the course of a lifetime. And in that context, sticking to the process makes sense. I'm going to drop thinking about what the impact of the process will be. For example, if I focus more on eating in moderation and exercising more, I'm not going to worry about how that affects my weight. I know it'll make me feel better, but I won't judge what I'm doing by whether I feel better. I'm just going to trust the process, as they say on Marathon Talk. So that's good. So I've now sat down and figured out the morning schedule that's going to get my runs in and get me to the gym and still get me to work on time to get my work done. And I'm going to try and do that for a few months and then see how that ends. Check in later on what the outcome is. But for the next few months, focus on the process. That's what came to me today. It's me. Am I?
Yeah. Just let me say, flip side of the coin.
No matter how many times it happens, it surprises me, which is crazy. So as a lawyer, you often see people write letters and to say things like, I'm surprised by your conduct. Your conduct surprises me. And I always say to people, I never use that because nothing surprised me.
Yeah, things surprise you. I surprise you all the time.
Okay,
you have no idea what I'm going to do.
In the context of law, where
Right.
people do something
Yes.
and it looks crazy,
Yeah.
that doesn't surprise me.
No.
Because people do crazy things.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to say it anyway. It never ceases to surprise me
Yes.
how quickly your expectations in your life changes. And here's the context. We decided, so I had a trial that I was pretty sure was going to go to trial. Most things don't go to trial, but this one I was something like 90% sure it was going, and then it settled just before. So now, instead of being in trial for the month of October, which I had kind of booked for the trial, before something else filled it up, I took the last week because we had the condo.
Yeah, and there's an expectation that changed very quickly in itself.
Exactly. So first of all, being at the condo the week in October was a changed expectation. And then we got up there. While we were there, we found out that for reasons that I won't get into, there's just too many rentals available this year, and it's going to be very hard to rent our condo for the winter.
Yeah.
Which is a bit challenging and disappointing for different reasons. As we were there during the week, I was warming myself up to the fact that, look, we may have this for the whole winter, but at the very least, it'll be rented kind of mid-December to mid-March instead of 4 months, only 3 months.
Right.
So we're going to be there for all of November and into mid-December.
Yeah. So let's start with all of November and mid-December.
So we're up there and we're like, this is great. Let's think about how we can really make the place nicer for our extended stay.
And how we can keep stuff here so that we going back and forth and make it our second home.
Exactly. And we even bought a little cabinet with a lock on it. So we could leave things like, there's nothing in it, just like toothbrushes and
Swimming gear. And
but stuff we don't have to bring back and forth. We started checking out some trails and where we can bike, get more comfortable. And on the Sunday, we were coming home on the Sunday. We get home and there's an email. The bottom line is, next thing you know, we have the place rented out. And now the way it looks is it could easily be rented out until early May. We're not going to get to go up there again until early May.
Which is something that we didn't think of when we were there, that was going to be our last time this year.
I know. I didn't even get a chance to savor it.
And I know that the last day, I was cleaning like crazy because this might happen, right? This might happen. So we got to clean everything and get it prepared just in case so we don't have to come back.
Yeah, because the person had made an inquiry. And if it worked out the way he'd hoped, he was going to come in there by the next weekend. So we wouldn't even be able to go back up there and do anything more.
Stuff.
We just had to imagine that if this works out, it has to be ready for this new person.
Exactly.
Which is what happened.
Yeah, and we didn't. That's what happened. We didn't realize that was going to be our last time. So yeah, how life changes so quickly. And I thought the month of November was going to be a little crazy for me because we're here and then we're there, and we're here and then we're there, and we've got a lot going on. We've got the kids moving and buying things, and you've got Christmas coming up, and then you've got all the decorating that you have to do. I was doing a little bit of extra work, so I thought it would be absolutely crazy. And then boom.
I remember you saying during our vacation up there, I wonder if I should pick up these extra shifts, because if I pick up shifts on the weekend, we can't come to the condo, but I don't want to not pick up the shifts because, I don't want to say no to these people. And you're right, the move with the kids, it was going to be very busy with the move.
Yeah.
Which was another kind of weekend. And we're just trying to balance all this stuff. And it turns out, just like so many times in life, you spent all this gray matter thinking through all these problems that never ended up happening. It's just the way life is, right?
It is. It's absolutely crazy.
It's that expression, I've had a lot of problems in my life, none of which happened.
None of this actually happened. Yes, you do spend a lot of time. So that's really interesting how life can change so quickly. And I'm sure for lots of people, other things have happened that just, boom, change.
You got to roll with the punches. Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own, and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct, or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way. It's sign-off time, and we are getting close to the holidays.
We are.
I'm here with Sheila and Elise.
Hello.
Hey.
Few things for me. First of all, had a great chat with Mirko that was on this episode. And afterwards, that same night, we subscribed to the Waterloo Region Record.
Yes,
so
we did.
We are doing a small part. And then a couple things going on with me. First, I mentioned that I've been reading these books that I just love. I actually am trying to downsize books because Sheila and I are thinking down the road when we have to move into a smaller place. So I've been getting rid of books over the last few years. For me to actually buy hard copy books, I have to really want them. And I got 3. So one that I read and 2 more that I'm pretty excited about. So over the next couple of months, I'm going to be reading these, and I think it's going to help my thinking. I'm really excited about that. And the last thing is, as we get into the holidays, I got lucky this year heading into the holidays. A lot of the stuff that I'm working on, I've gotten it in good shape just before the holidays. So I might actually get a break, a few days off, and time to relax. How about you, Sheila?
Oh, that's exciting, John. As I'm going to have a few days off this holiday season too. So maybe we can do something together. Yay.
Have your people call my people.
Okay.
Set something up.
Yay. Anyways, I had a crazy busy week. I said to John, it was like running a marathon the last week. I taught a little dance. I did 2 catering episodes. I worked. We had Christmas party, just like everything. It was a little mishmash of everything. Went to the gym twice as well. So I'm feeling it, definitely, because I haven't been doing that much because of my knee. So I'm getting back into that and getting very excited about Christmas. So all those things going on in my life. And I'm hoping that I too can take a little bit of a break and over the Christmas holidays and see family, of course, and just have a little downtime.
Not to split hairs about this whole marathon thing, but I did not see you either crying or cursing yourself. So I'm not sure it's exactly like a marathon, but okay.
Okay. I doubt it is. I don't think I've ever going to have that experience that you had running a marathon.
What, crying or cursing yourself?
Yeah, just the whole experience of just running beyond.
Yeah, this is what you say to yourself a lot. What an idiot. Why'd you do this? It's so stupid.
But I must say, like halfway through some of my catering things, I was doing that in my head. What am I doing this for? But anyways, what about you, Elise? How are you surviving?
I'm treading water. I think that's the best way to describe it right now. It's the last 2 weeks before our holidays, and it's just, I think the energy's just been really high, and I feel like I'm really naggy at work right now with my students because I feel like I'm having to correct a lot of behavior. But 4 more days, and I get a 2-week holiday, and I'm so excited.
Yes.
We did have a really special school event last week that was a lot of fun. It was our Christmas extravaganza. So we had a horse-drawn wagon ride, we had hot chocolate and a campfire, and we decorated Christmas cookies, and we did a special craft. So that was a lot of fun, and I think the kids really enjoyed it. So that was really great. And then we did have our staff party for my workplace, and I also had a book club party with my book club that I'm a part of, and it was a lot of fun. So there was a lot to look forward to, but I do feel like I am really ready and looking forward to a break.
Yes.
So that's what I'm looking forward to. 4 more days, and then I can rest.
Excellent. Speaking of horse-drawn carriage, John and I were coming home from grocery shopping, and we're pulling onto our street, and there's a horse-drawn sleigh with Santa and Mrs. Claus on it coming up the street, and like we're almost going towards each other, and then it turns onto our street and starts going around. It was just so weird, but really cool that Santa was just kind of doing a pre-run or something.
Yeah, like it wasn't announced or anything. We're just on our street in front of our house. It was a carriage, actually. Here we are, waiting for Santa and Mrs. Claus to go by.
Yeah, so that we could park our car.
If you want to see it, look on our Instagram page. I made a quick little video. You can see the reel.
Yeah, it was so unexpected for sure.
Amazing. Well, we're so grateful that you're able to join us today. And we hope that you're able to join us next week when we have a very special episode for you to celebrate our 100th episode.
Woohoo.
Hope to see you then.
Yeah.
That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.